Hello and welcome to Ditching Hourly. I'm Jonathan Stark. Today I am joined by guest Shaun Jardine. Shaun, welcome to the show.
Jonathan, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm delighted to be here.
My pleasure. So Shaun is an author, consultant, and former CEO of a top 250 law firm. And today I'm sure we're going to talk about value pricing, but probably a bunch of other things too. So before we get started, Shaun, could you tell folks a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay. I qualified as a lawyer back in the 1980s. I, for my sins, was a litigation lawyer. So a kind of area of work that I really, really enjoyed. I eventually joined a law firm where I became I was elected the CEO for a 3-year term that lasted 4 years, 9 months and 11 days. Not that I was counting. And during my tenure as CEO, I managed to get out to Dallas in Texas and attended a conference that was organized by Ron Baker, who I gather you know, Jonathan. And of 100 delegates that were at this conference in Dallas, Texas, I was the only Brit. And so I learned a lot about value-based pricing at that event and kept in touch with lots of the people that I met there. And as I say, the rest is history. So I managed to run a pilot at my firm of introducing value-based pricing. And when I retired from private practice in October 21, I decided that that's something I quite like doing and something that I would do going forward.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to jump right in. How many employees did you have at the firm when you made the switch?
240.
Wow.
Yeah, we were a top 250 law firm. So the biggest law firms in the UK have got thousands and thousands of employees, but we were top 250. So we just scraped in. We were turning over about 12.5 million a year pounds.
So that's probably the largest firm I've heard of who's made the transition. And so how would you say the transition went at the end of the day? So ultimately, was it successful? Was it complete? Was it partial? How did you feel about it?
It was partial. It was a pilot scheme with a number of teams. And what was very interesting about it was when I was sitting on the board and my head of finance was telling me, "Oh, I'm really worried about our numbers." And I said, "Why are you worried about our numbers?" And she said, "Well, I'm really worried. We're down X £100,000." And I said, "Oh," I said, "have you forgotten that 3 teams don't time record anymore?" And she went, "Oh yeah, I have." And I said, "Well, they don't time record. That's why your WIP, your work in progress, isn't going up." And she said, "Yeah, okay. So what can we measure now?" And I said, "Well, how about actuals? The prices we have quoted clients." And it was kind of, okay, how do we do that best? And it was, it was that kind of thing where,
Wow.
we ran this as a pilot with a number of teams and they embraced it, which was fantastic. And it was then a question of then with all of these things, and certainly I always advocate doing a pilot first.
hmm
You can then, lawyers being lawyers and being competitive, once they see one of their colleagues actually doing something different and making a difference and actually maybe making more money in terms of their fees and having a better lifestyle or whatever, be it a work-life balance or whatever, then lawyers can get competitive. And that's what I was keen to do.
Wild. Okay. So what were the big difficulties in transitioning? Really the mindset, like you just described with the numbers person was like, oh, something's, we're in trouble. And it's like, wait, what are you looking at? And that they needed to be reminded to look at the revenue and not the billable hours. Was that how there must have been, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm imagining that there must have been huge pushback from anybody that you rolled it out to, or did you somehow pick people who you thought were going to be amenable to the idea?
Oh, you very, very much have to pick your pioneer penguins. These are the people that embrace what you're trying to do. And I use the word penguins deliberately because I'm a great fan of John Cotter of the Harvard Business School, who wrote a book called Our Iceberg is Melting. That was a little fable about a group of penguins who, if they didn't change what they're going to do, are going to perish. And what I did when I rolled out value-based pricing was look at John Kotter's 8 Steps to Change, which is an established methodology. And I'm a great one for not reinventing wheels. So it was, well, look,
Mhm.
what is the reason for doing this? And that's the first session, the first point. What is the paradigm shift we want to do? Second one is, who are the pioneer penguins? Who are the people that you want to get on board that are going to get this? And don't get me wrong, you will have no penguins in every organization. Those people who say, oh, no, that won't work. And those people are valuable. They're valuable at testing what you're saying and what you're doing, but you don't need them as part of the pilot. And really, that what I was keen to do as part of I was in a position as former CEO to hand select the people that I wanted as part of the pilot, and then go from there, really. But, as I say, that is one of the really crucial points that in any change management program, and switching from the hourly rate to value-based pricing is a change management program. It is not an email from the CEO and what I call the Jean-Luc Picard syndrome, where someone says, make it so. That doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. It's not a half-day course. It's not a webinar. This
Right.
is a plan. And how are we going to do it, and how are we going to deliver it? And if anybody's interested, Kotter methodology, that's the one. I've recommended his book thousands of times, and to be fair, John Kotter has linked in with me, but he has yet to buy me a beer. John, if you're out there, you know where I am.
And that's Kotter.
It is indeed. Yeah, no, absolutely brilliant. He's got some great stuff on YouTube as well about implementing change.
So what was the reason you gave to the company or the firm that was the motivating factor?
It was really just down to the fact that lawyers create value in the same way that your listeners all create value for their respective professions. And if I know the answer to something that saves someone £200,000 by a 20-minute conversation, is the correct charge really 20 minutes of my hourly rate? And the answer is no, it
Mhm.
isn't. I've created more value than that. And one of the things that, I think lawyers struggle with is we are used to creating value for our clients, and we argue for our clients, and we fight for our clients. But when it comes to ourselves and looking to capture value for what the value we create, we're really bad at, and we don't
Yeah.
like talking about money. And I remember one particular firm I worked with. I said, look, one of the problems with us Brits, we don't like talking about money. And it was a big Zoom call, and a woman in the top right-hand corner of my Zoom screen popped up, and she said, look, I don't mind talking about money. She said, I think the prices we charge at this firm that I was working with, doing some work with, she said, we're too low. I used to charge double the amount at my old firm. And she said, one of the reasons I don't mind talking about money for a UK law firm is I'm Polish. And I am quite happy to talk about what I work. And I was really inspired by that lady, because there she is. She's a lawyer. She's working in a second language. And
Mhm.
she was more bullish about the value she created than some of her British colleagues. And that, as an exercise and a Zoom call, did far more for that firm, on that instance than the conversation I was having with them, because you can see them all looking at, oh, this is one of our own who's saying this. And yeah, she is good. And, this particular lawyer at that time was on our probationary period, but she piped up to say, do you know what? This isn't good enough. And I'm blessed that she did so.
So in your years of situations like that and dealing with not her, but the other people, the other type of people in the room who don't
Yeah.
want to talk about money, have you ever uncovered the source of that?
Oh, no. In fact, I would tell you that in terms of practice areas, every lawyer thinks that their practice area is unique. Every
Mm.
lawyer thinks it can't happen in my practice area, but it could happen in somewhere else's. And it all boils down to confidence. What I call the the L'Oreal moment. Are we worth it? And the thing is, and this is to quote a Ron Bakerism, Ron Baker, who's written numerous books about value-based pricing, and a really, really great source of inspiration for me. It says for at the hourly billing, you need a calculator. For value-based pricing, you need courage. And you will never get that pump fist price, that price that makes you go, you will never get that unless you ask for it. And that's the important thing. And that's what I encourage my clients to do.
And where does the confidence come from when you're working with someone? Is it just you run a pilot and you prove that it works?
Absolutely. And it can be just, you've got to create a psychologically safe space for people to engage with this. It cannot be career limiting. If you try for a pump fist price and you don't get it, you can't, so when I work with firms, I would say to the CEO and the management team, look, if you're going to get on board, you've got to attend the meeting. You've got to attend the kickoff meeting. You've got to tell your people that if they are part of this pilot, they can experiment with what's going on, because value-based pricing is an art, not a science. So there's no formula. It's not an Excel spreadsheet. It's not a piece of tech. It is gut feel, hearts and minds, and sometimes just taking a deep breath and giving it a go. And one of the things that that I'm a great fan of is creating what I call a lawyer scoring matrix, which if you get a piece of work that comes in, no one prices their own work individually, 2 pairs of eyes on every price. So one exercise I did with a lawyer, which was a piece of probate work, a bog standard piece of probate work, and we applied the lawyer scorer matrix. So she came to me and she said, this piece of probate work, according to our spreadsheet, is worth £6,000. I said, okay, we're now going to price it, and depending on the answers you give, we'll point to a higher price or a lower price. I said, how busy are you? She said, I'm really busy. I'm massively busy. Okay, higher price. I said, how complicated is this? She said, it's not very complicated at all. I said, okay, neutral then. I said, can you delegate this piece of work? She said, no. I said, oh, come on, you've got a team of 15 people. Why can't you delegate this probate matter? She said, Shaun, I cannot delegate this probate matter because I have just left my office with 3 siblings arguing over who gets mum's jewelry because mum has died, who gets the engagement ring. All of these 3 siblings hate each other. I've got to have 3 conversations with them over everything to get this probate done. And I cannot delegate this to a junior lawyer. I said, okay, that sounds reasonable. Okay, higher price. One of the other questions is, are you going to enjoy working with this client? And she said, Shaun, you know I'm not going to enjoy working with this client. I said, okay. I said, that points to a higher price. And I said to her at the end of this, bearing in mind the probate calculator that we were usually working to was £6,000. I said, what do you want to charge to do this? Because it's going to be a nightmare. And she said, £24,000. I said, fine, price approved. If you get it, great. If you don't get it, it doesn't matter because you don't want to do it at £6,000. She sent an email. The next day she got confirmation. We got the job. We were retained. And then how do you think that lawyer feels about doing that work? And the answer is, I'm getting paid for dealing with all this tough stuff, but at least I'm getting paid for it. And that's really, it's creating an environment. It's creating a framework where you can say to your people, doesn't matter if you don't get it, because I've explored it with you. And if we get it, we get it. If we don't, it doesn't matter, because at £6,000, it's a job that is not worth doing. And one of the things about legal, and I can really only speak about legal because that's where I'm from, is that quite often lawyers will say, and I've done lots of surveys with law firms, and say, does your law firm make you work for clients who are unprofitable and difficult to deal with? That's a survey question. Are the clients unprofitable and difficult to deal with? Are you made to deal with these people? The lowest, I always get the answer as yes. And the lowest yes figure is 56%, and the highest yes figure is 96%. And what's it like working for that firm? The answer is not nice. And I suspect their staff update their CVs regularly.
Right. So I want to get into a little bit of a nuance in that story, because I like to be really, it's a little pedantic, but this is a show about pricing. So, and especially value pricing. In that scenario with the 3 fighting siblings, do you have any questions about the value to the siblings? Because what you described, I would call a more realistic and sophisticated assessment of the costs to the lawyer. So was there any conversation around what it was worth to the client, or did you just say, we're going to throw a giant number over the wall, and if they take it, great. If they don't, they don't. The value wasn't there.
And when I had that conversation with the lawyer about that particular matter, I didn't even know the size of the estate. It was well, no, actually, that's probably not quite fair, because the size of the estate would have been guided by the guide price coming in at the beginning. So it was never going to be a huge estate at £6,000. But if it was going to be a multi-million pound estate, we wouldn't have started with a base price of 6,000. So
Got
it was going to be a relatively modest estate, but it was still one that needed to go through probate, and the aggro factor of the three warring siblings was the points that actually pushed the price higher.
Why do you think the siblings didn't try a different lawyer, which almost surely would have been much less expensive?
Well, they for all we know, that we might have been the third lawyer they tried, and some of them said, we don't want to act. And one of the important things that I'm a great believer in is you do not need every bit of work that comes across your desk. And saying no to work is very important. What you need to do is have more than your fair share of the good stuff. And when something is good, when you meet someone, as a litigation lawyer, which is what I did, if a client turns up with 3 carrier bags full of invoices and documents that aren't ordered in any order, this is going to be a nightmare case. People who would say, it's a point of principle, I want to go all the way to the Supreme Court. You're thinking reason has gone out of the window here. And the kind of clients I wanted to act for as a litigator were clients who were realistic in their objectives, well organized, would have perhaps come to me with a chronological bundle of documents, scanned as a PDF in a paginated bundle, so that they could say to me, Shaun, look at page 6, that's the beginning of the contract. Page 12 is this. These are the people I want to act for that have feel they've got a stake in their own litigation. And they're out there. And all you've got to do is choose the people you work for a little bit better.
For sure. So you mentioned litigation a couple of times. What inside the firm, were there different areas of sort of legal expertise in these different teams? And which ones, if any, did you think were a better fit for non-hourly types of pricing? And which ones, if any, were something that you'd probably just leave hourly if you were going to continue to do it?
I think that all areas of legal work can embrace value-based pricing. Now, litigation lawyers, and I know many lawyers listen to your podcast, because I do, and I know Matthew Kirby does, you had a long ago, so I know lawyers listen to what you're saying. Litigation lawyers say, hey, hang on, you can't apply value-based pricing to my area of work because we don't know what's going to happen. Right. Now, if I say to you, that's bunkum, let's think about dropping a pebble in a pond. If we dropped a pebble in a pond, we're going to get a series of concentric circles, like an archery target board. That center circle, if I said to you, Jonathan, let's swap roles, you can be the lawyer. If I said to you, Jonathan, you're an expert lawyer, an expert litigation lawyer, can you, based on your expertise, draft me a letter to my neighbor because he's moved the boundary fence, or I've got overhanging trees. Can you give me a fixed price for doing a letter before action because you are an expert? And the answer is yes. I'm an expert. I can give you that, a fixed price for that. I say, Jonathan, for the next concentric circle, what is the likely work that is going to happen when that letter lands on my next door neighbor's doormat? And the answer is the likely options are 3. 1, we hear nothing. 2, we get a vitriolic letter or phone call from the neighbor themselves. Or 3, we get a vitriolic letter or phone call from the neighbor's lawyer. That's what's likely to happen, because I'm an expert and I know this and I've done this work for years. So, Jonathan, can you, as an expert, give me a price for the yes work and the likely work? And the answer is yes. Those other concentric circles, we're in the realms of who knows? Who knows what's going to happen there? Well, the answer is when we get to that third circle, fourth circle, fifth circle, I'll give you a price then, because I'm still an expert, but I can advise you when we get to those areas. So what I'm not going to do is say, look, I'm going to give you a price for everything happening from start from now to the finish, because I don't know. But I will give you prices and options and service level options for the yes and likely work. And then you, as the consumer, can decide, yeah, okay, I think that's quite nice. I quite like your gold option there. I'm going to go for that.
Hmm.
That's what I would like.
That is the exact pushback that I've gotten from other people in the law space, just on LinkedIn or on my email lists, where they're like, oh, well, it could go on forever. And I'm like, I don't know. People do it.
Mm.
I don't think Johnny Cochran got paid by the hour. Maybe he did, but I see billboards up and down the highway, Route 95, that say, injured, you win or it's free. So like somehow they're filtering down either their client leads into a very particular type, and they're not saying yes to they're not taking on everyone. But there are contingency fees in many industries. And if you're really good at what you do, it's an important point. You said it many times, and I'm glad you did. An important point is if you know what you're doing, this is not rocket science.
Well, the thing is, lots of people will say, look, if you are an expert, you're holding yourself out as an expert in your field. Yet as an expert in your field, you can't give me a price.
I know.
It's kind of like, hey, hang on.
I know that they don't. The thinking is, for the dear listener, the thinking is, I know my craft and I know my craft, and that's where they'll say they're an expert of their craft. What they're not an expert at when they get nervous is delivering results. So they can say something like, if we use a cabinet analogy, I know I can make a beautiful cherry wood cabinet, but do I know if I can satisfy the lady of the house?
Mhm.
It's two different things. So to me, an expert is someone who can satisfy the client. And you could be mediocre at your craft, but if you satisfy the client reliably with a desirable outcome, you're an expert in my book.
Yeah. And taking that analogy of the carpenter, which is, I think, a great analogy and one that I will unmercilessly steal, Jonathan, and use cases in the UK, is that if you are, even if you're a mediocre carpenter, if you have the conversation with the lady of the house to say, what is it you're exactly after? What does good look like to you? What are you expecting from me? When do you want this delivered? Et cetera, et cetera. That
Exactly.
you find out what is of value to them, and then you deliver that. Then then they're going to think you're an absolute genius. And one of the problems, I work with one law firm where I was having this conversation with a litigation partner, actually. And I said, look, we've got to scope what we're doing. We've got to identify the assumptions we are making. And we have got to point out and exclude what we're not doing. And he looked at me and said, Shaun, I'm too busy to do all that. I've just got to get on and get started. And I'm saying, no, we've got to work out what is it we're doing. And because if the client's not the right fit, let's find out before we do the work, not do the work and then at the end find out that the client's not the right fit.
Yeah.
And that's so important. But lots of people, lawyers, because we're all tied up with non-chargeable work and chargeable work, and they think we're too big. If I have that 45-minute conversation about what is it you're trying to achieve, that might turn out to be non-chargeable. Well, it might, but it might save you a fortune if that client hasn't got the money to pay you, or wants an outcome that can't be delivered.
Let's do a quick pivot back to the team stuff, because you're one of the few people I've spoken with who has implemented this with teams. And I'm curious, with the Pioneer Penguins, what did you do about incentives?
As the Pioneer group, what you will try and do is, because we're proving a concept, Okay. So
Hmm.
we're not necessarily going to incentivize them individually as a pioneer group. However, if once we prove the concept, I am a great fan of team targets, not individual targets, team targets. And the reason for that is if you have lawyers who are only incentivized on their billable hours, their time, all they're going to do is hang on to the work that comes into them and do it regardless, even if it is work that as a partner is doing should be dealt with by a paralegal. They're going to think, I can book the hours on this. This incentivizes me. Whereas if you're part of a team, you've got the greater good of the team wanting to actually hit a global target. So you will delegate, you will pass it down to the right person so that the right people are doing the right work at the right time. And that I think becomes very important because you want these people to work as a team. You don't want to have people in a silo mentality. And we've got to upskill our junior lawyers and show them how work is done, involve them in meetings, because ultimately, if we had a client that is coming to us and, to take instructions on a corporate deal, and if on the first Zoom call, we've got 4 lawyers sitting in the room, and the client's immediately going to look back and think, hang on, there's 4 of you here. I was only expecting one. Am I paying by the hour? No, you're not paying by the hour. We're just sitting here because we want to understand what it is you want to achieve. And I've got my corporate lawyer here. I've got my property lawyer here. I've got my employment lawyer here. And we just want to, for you, Mr. or Mrs. Client, we want to get you the best outcome.
How do they react in that situation?
Oh, well, once you actually start presenting to your clients, these are the price options. This is what you're going to pay because you're going to pay a fixed price. Time can go out the window. And ultimately, what we want, clients want outcomes. They're not interested in lawyer inputs. I had one client once who said to me, Shaun, if you can make this go away, this employment tribunal matter, if you could, the last time I had one of these, it cost me £7,500. It took up huge amounts of management time. It was a nightmare. Shaun, if you can make this go away, I'll give you £7,500 immediately. I gave it to my employment partner and I said, look, I'm not an employment lawyer, but this case looks to me like it sucks. He looked at it and said, Shaun, it does suck. I said, would you mind ringing up the other lawyer and telling them it sucks? He said, Shaun, I will do that for you. And so he did that and fired off an email and they withdrew. I sent a bill to the client for £7,500 and he paid it. He was overjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. One employment lawyer I work with, we gave the client 3 price options. They wanted employment contracts. We gave them 3 price options. We will send you some precedents. You fill them in. We'll check your homework, £2,000. We will do it for you in 3 weeks' time, £5,000. We will do it for you tomorrow, £8,000. And the client chose the £8,000 one because for them, it was strategically important that we jump the queue, that we get it done immediately. And they were delighted. And did they know they could get it cheaper? Yes, we told them the same. This was not rocket science. They knew. We told them. Yeah. And they were delighted to pay £8,000. Now, was the lawyer happy? Yeah, he was going to do half his monthly target the following day.
Right.
Was the client happy? Yes, I'm going to get my work the following day. I never thought I was going to get it the following day. Were the owners of the business happy? I really, really hope so. Because the artificial cap on the hourly, that employee's target had been blown off the roof because they were going to do half their monthly target in one day the following day. Now, unless we start presenting with options, clients don't know. And we get options when we go on an aeroplane, we get options when we go for dinner, we get options at a car wash. So let's just start offering our clients options because one thing is sure as eggs is eggs. Lawyers don't understand, or value is different to different people. And that's what we need to accept and understand.
Right. Yeah. Different people in different situations, even the same person in different situations is going to value things differently.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's worth paying extra for rush service. Other times it doesn't matter. Yeah. That's a great example. Those 3 options that you laid are fantastic. That's so good. So what did the Pioneer Penguins report back? Like after you felt like they were into a rhythm or a routine, what did they tell you back about the experience before and after?
okay, what the Pioneer Penguins are instrumental in finding out what goes on in the teams as of now. So go away, bring back your pricing methodologies for your team. What do you do at the moment? Who does what? Let's have a really good look at this, because basically the management don't know. We then start thinking the third P of the 8P-point plan is plan. What is our plan for the future? What's our vision? What do we want this to look like, so that when we look, 18 months ahead, what is it we want to look and feel like it within this organization? And then we've got to start promoting and communicating to our people across the business that this is a project that we want you to get behind. And then we've got to permit, at the fifth P, permit people to actually give you authority to act within framework, but we give you authority to perhaps raise your hand and say, and one thing I do when I go into law firms is we say, write down on a piece of paper 3 clients you want to sack and why. And I did this with a Partners Away group for 36 partners of the same firm, and they were writing away furiously. And I started the guy at the back and said, right, who's on your list? And he said, okay, it is XYZ. And XYZ was a global brand. Global brand, you know them, your listeners will know them. He said, I want to sack them. I said, why? He said, because we're their third string lawyers. They don't give us their best work. They're argumentative. They're not nice to deal with. And they don't respect what we do. And I said, how many other people have got this XYZ on their list? And 8 hands went up. And I said, well, who's the partner responsible for XYZ? And there was a guy down at the front, lyrically. And I said, how does this make you feel? He said, I didn't know this. I said, how much a year did they spend with you? And the answer was, not enough.
Yeah.
It was not enough. And I said, well, look, let's start conversations about people who we shouldn't act for. They're the wrong fit. They're in the wrong place. And we don't want to act for them. And when you start giving permission to your people to come to you and say, we shouldn't act for this person, the floodgates will open. And then you will find that there are lots of people that you think, well, do you know what? If we got rid of those, we could be doing better quality work for other clients who really respect what we do and charge them more.
Right. As long as you're getting off of the billable hour, that makes tons of sense.
Absolutely.
But if you're not, it doesn't.
No, absolutely. If we start being able to spend more time with our clients, you will know in your conversations with clients that lawyers particularly will say, Jonathan, we aim to be the trusted advisor, right? Now, in my book, I talk about the fact that if you are the trusted advisor, can you tell me, when did you ever speak to the client about a matter which wasn't within the matter? When did you make a call just to see how they're doing? What do their children do? What do their partners do? What do you can tell me about their lives? And the answer is nothing. And the fact is, we're not the trusted advisor. We're just we are people who called in to facilitate a transaction, and we don't deserve the right to be trusted because we haven't earned the right to be trusted.
And you're not trusting them if you're billing by the hour.
Absolutely not. I have one of my great friends, a lady called Jackie Brown in Perth, Western Australia. She had a client before they moved away from the billable hour who would ring her as a matrimonial lawyer. Said, Jackie, well, I just want to tell you, I'm on the phone to you now, blah, blah, blah. We are now at 5 minutes, 45 seconds, and I'm hanging up. So only charge me for 6 minutes, please. That's not being the trusted advisor. That is your client hating your business model. And, that Jackie and her brother Steve and Lynn and Brown in Perth, Western Australia, I encourage all your listeners, go and have a look at their website. It's brilliant. They talk about if you are presented with a bill that you have not previously authorized, please don't pay.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, I've heard of this before. I don't know if it's from them, but that is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just wow. Because then if you want to have a chat with a client, have a chat with a client. Because we want to form these relationships. We want to be trusted. We want to know about them. And then
you should want that.
Absolutely. Why not? Life is too short to deal with people who are frankly not nice. I was going to say something far worse than that then, John. No idea how I restrain myself. But, we want to deal with people who are good. And, if you're going to enjoy working with these people, then let's choose the people we're going to enjoy working with, not the rest of them.
Yeah, for years when I was doing sort of more traditional solo consulting, I was like, I only work with people who I want to go out to dinner with because I'm probably going to end up going out to dinner with them. So, you know how torturous it is to go out to dinner with someone you don't want to hang around with? It's brutal.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's a second takeaway. I'm going to mercilessly stick from you. This is such a win-win for me, Jonathan. You got no idea.
Well, you're being nice because didn't mercilessly steal my comic that you put in your book. Let's talk about your book.
Thank you.
So yes, so give everyone the title. If you're, lawyers, especially if you're listening, check it out.
Oh, it is called Ditch the Billable Hour, Implementing Value-Based Pricing at a Law Firm. That's what it is. It's available in all good bookshops and presumably many awful ones as well. It's available on Amazon in the States, Canada, Australia, and the UK. Jonathan, you will recall that you very kindly gave me permission to use one of your Ditcherville cartoons, which appears on page 289, which I would encourage people to look at. And what I wanted to create was a manual that people could pick up and dip into and find things that would resonate with them and help them get over this journey. So it's got links to YouTube clips. It's got links to articles that people have written. It's got funny cartoons and things like that. And the idea is, ultimately, I don't care how the penny drops when a lawyer reads this book, as long as the penny drops, because we all learn differently. And some of us are visual learners. Some learn by doing, some audio learners, some will read, whatever. I don't care how the penny drops, as long as someone thinks, do you know what? I think we should try X, Y, Z. And if it is a YouTube clip about Bob's Barbecue or the Texas Bar and Grill Singers, singing a spin-off of Time After Time, I don't care. As long as people think, yeah, now I get it. Because there is a way. And one thing is sure as eggs as well, because of artificial intelligence and, Gen AI doing things a lot quicker and a lot slicker. If you're charging by the hour and Gen AI is now doing it in 6 seconds, what used to take you 6 hours to do, what are you going to do? And the answer is you're going to get a new business model and quick.
Well, that is a fantastic place to leave it. We could probably do an entire second show on AI in law and how that's going to affect business models. But you've already dropped so many knowledge bombs on the audience that I think they're probably satiated at this point. What are some links that people can go to find out more about what you're doing online?
Okay. Well, my business is called Big Yellow Penguin, bigyellowpenguin.co.uk. I am the only lawyer that openly admits to traveling the world with an inflatable animal, which is a penguin. So you can always find my website relatively easily. I am a LinkedIn fan, so you can always find me on LinkedIn, Shaun Jardine, Big Yellow Penguin. That's where you can get hold of me anytime. And I'm more than happy to have chats with people about their value-based pricing journeys. And guess what? I'll even have a chat for nothing because I want you to do it.
Well, I know a fellow traveler when I see one. So thanks so much for spreading the word.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much. I am honored to have been on your podcast. As I say, I before we got onto the recording, I told you I associate you with summer because I listen to your podcast while mowing my lawn. And I'm quite happy to be out there for a couple of podcast lengths of your podcast while I'm mowing away.
Excellent. Well, if you send me a picture of your lawn, we'll include it with the show notes.
Like it's England, of course, it is raining, but I'll try and find one on a sunny day.
Classic. All right, folks, that's it for this week. I'm Jonathan Stark, and you've been listening to Ditching Hourly. Hope you join us again next time. Bye.